Welcome to our third TAP Talk. We are so excited to have you here with us this afternoon. Again, it's 3 p.m. on Thursday. That means it is time for a TAP Talk. So TAP Talks are where we bring you awesome arts professionals to talk about their paths to creative careers, especially for a teen audience, but everybody is welcome. So for anyone who is joining us who is not familiar with TAP, it stands for Teen Arts Pass. We're a program of the arts education organization Urban Gateways, and through TAP, anyone 13 to 19 can get $5 tickets to performances at our 27 partner organizations all around the Chicago area. Of course, right now there are no performances to see because of COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders in place. So the TAP team wanted to figure out how we could keep the creativity flowing, keep a dialogue with teens, and keep some of that exciting artistic energy going. So we're continuing these TAP Talks every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Central here on Instagram Live and hashtag Quarantine Arts Pass. So today, I am excited, thrilled to introduce Amanda Krieg Thomas. Amanda Krieg Thomas is a music supervisor for film and TV based in Los Angeles. She has overseen the music on TV series such as Life in Pieces, Claws, The Politician, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story, and Pose, and is currently working on the film adaptation of the Broadway musical Prom for Netflix. So we've got some really great questions lined up for Amanda, thanks to our teen council. And if you all want to, but we will bring in Amanda. Hi.
Hi, I think I did it right. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Victory. Welcome. We've got Amanda Krieg Thomas, music supervisor extraordinaire, here with us, and we are very lucky to have you today for this conversation. So thank you so much for joining our TAP Talk today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we'll jump into some questions. Again, some of these questions have been shared with us by the Teen Arts Pass Teen Council. But if anybody who is viewing has any questions they want to throw down in the comments or in that little question thing, that's what we'll figure out if we get there. Feel free to add any questions and we'll try to get to them before our time here is done. So Amanda, just to start, can you tell us a little bit about your job? What do you do?
What do I do? It's a great question because not a lot of people know about it as a job, but basically my role is to oversee all the music elements on a film or television show. It depends on on project to project, but sometimes that's often helping to pick songs for scenes, pitch ideas for scenes, helping to produce and create recordings of like bands or people singing on camera, overseeing budgets, doing a lot of clearance paperwork, like negotiating rights, and kind of like any music you see or hear in a film or TV show, I probably had something to do with it being there. At least the ones I worked on, but that's the job.
Very cool. How did you find yourself in this line of work? What was your path here?
It was a very kind of like accidental path and like following a little bit of like accidental choices and following my heart and following the opportunities. But I studied theater and at Northwestern, and I moved to LA. I also kind of was in writing, and I moved to LA thinking I was actually going to pursue writing and producing for film and television. And I was really desperate for any job when I moved to LA, and I got one. I kind of stumbled into one assisting a music attorney at a film studio, and I figured I'd just learn everything about what that entailed and how music and films worked. And it kind of opened this Pandora's box, and I had like no idea of how complicated and interesting it was. And kind of just like bit by bit fell in love with all the different parts of the job and decided pretty quickly that it was something I really wanted to pursue and learn more about. And that was like 12 years ago. And so I've just sort of followed that path ever since.
How do you like learn in your job? What's your type of professional development? What do you do to like be at the top of your game?
Well, now actually, Northwestern didn't have this and not many film schools do, but there are classes, there are programs for music supervision now. It's a pretty new thing. But you can actually study it in some places. I think actually Columbia College might have a program.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And but how I learned was just very much on the job. When I got that very first job, what I did was I just basically decided I was going to learn as much as possible. I didn't even think I wanted to be a music lawyer or do anything relating to it at the time, but I just would like read every single contract I saw, try to understand language that was being used, even though like I was 22 and didn't know anything about anything, and just tried to understand as much as possible and like make time to ask my mentors questions when I could. And that sort of, and then every job I took, I very much got to a place where like I'd be somewhere for a couple of years and then decide like, okay, I'm not learning this thing. Like I've seen this be a part of the job. I haven't gotten exposed to it too much. Where can I go where I can learn that thing? And actually like every job I've taken, I can point to like, I wanted to get better at this skill or these two skills. And, I went to like work in reality TV because I really wanted to be more hands-on than I was at a studio. And then I went to work with an independent music supervisor because I wanted to learn how the job worked from scripted television. So or like scripted film. And so it's very much just been picking jobs really strategically as best as I could, with the opportunities, and then asking the people I worked with questions, and then trying to do independent film on the side so I could really put into practice things that I was learning and teach myself. But yeah, it was a lot of asking questions, which I still do to this day. I'm talking to one of my mentors this afternoon to ask her questions about things, being like, I just, want a second opinion. I need to learn more. So that's kind of how it looks like in what I do.
Cool. For those of you who've joined us since we started, we are having a TAP talk with Amanda Krieg Thomas, a music supervisor based out of LA, and she's telling us all about what music supervision is. For a teen audience and anyone else who found their way here, you are all welcome. Add any questions you have for Amanda down below. So what's the coolest project or your favorite credit that you have, or what you're most proud of? Those might be different things, but anything that kind of falls along those lines of what the work that you do that has been that you're really proud of.
Oh my gosh. Every project is really different and really fulfilling. I mean, it's super present on my mind, but it's not even done. But you mentioned I've been working on this musical, The Prom. I'm really, really, really fortunate that I work with Ryan Murphy on all of his projects. That's like American Horror Story. And I mean, I did not work on Glee, but I feel like your audience might understand that reference point more than others. But I definitely did not work on that. To get to work on musicals has been really amazing, and that is not even done yet. We're almost done with production. I mean, we had to stop production because of what's going on in the world, but to get to be on set as much as I have, a lot of my job normally is sitting behind my computer, sending a lot of emails, making phone calls. So it was really fun and fulfilling to get to be on set with people, to feel a part of a team that way. And I've always, always, always loved musicals ever since I was little. That was very much my entry to the arts. So to get to work on something of that scale with such brilliant people, with such a vision, and get to work with Nicole Kidman and Meryl Streep and James Corden, and see them every day on set, and feel like you're coworkers with those kind of people. It's just pretty much a dream come true. That's one big highlight for me, and there's still a lot of work to be done in that movie, but it's been pretty much amazing all the way. A lot of work, but amazing.
So with the day-to-day stuff, what's the difference between the different aspects of the things that are involved in your career? So you're talking about working on a musical that has music, that's already known what the music is going to be versus if you working on a show or a film where you need to like put a song somewhere versus when you need to like have a song created for something. Like, I'm just speculating based on conversation what maybe some of those different things are, but can you kind of talk about what those different paths of the job kind of are?
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about, one of the things I really love about the job is that it's never all like the same thing every day, pretty much. So, you know, on some shows, my role is there's pitching songs for scenes, which is pretty much constant on every project, doing that for the prom right now. And so like sometimes, you know, we'll get emails from whether it's like a producer or an editor or someone just like, hey, I'm working on this. Can you send options like this? I'm thinking it maybe could be this, you know, and so then we go to different wells and we come up with ideas. You know, I have 3 awesome people who work with me. And so we'll just gather ideas from a bunch of different sources and then send those over and sort of be like, hey, this is why we think this works. This is why we don't, you know, like we kind of explain a little bit. And that can be, those requests can kind of be anything from, we're looking for music in the background of like a coffee shop or, you know, cocktail jazz or like, you know, a giant montage. Like it really, really runs the gamut. And sometimes that creative process looks a little different on the show Claws. Sometimes they'll just send me like a full episode and just be like, what do you think? Where should there be music? And like, when, what do you think it should be? So that sort of like runs a spectrum in terms of creative. And then on every show, there's always a like licensing component, like on something like a musical, for example. Like I didn't have to clear the songs, it was all part of the musical, but on most shows we're then doing song clearance. That involves like research, a lot of really deep research. There's I think a lot of people will be surprised, there's like not one database for like who owns a song. And there are many databases and they're often incorrect. And so finding out who owns the song, it's usually multiple people, and it can often take a lot of digging. And then there's a lot of paperwork to get everybody to approve, because every single person who owns a song has to approve in order for us to use it. So that is a really, really big part of the job is doing that paperwork, negotiating fees, because all of those different people will ask for different amounts of money. And so we have to sort of get everybody organized and then keep track of all of that, like the budget, who's asked for what, like who we need to negotiate with. And that is a huge part of it. And then there's the on-camera side. So for the musical, a lot of what I was doing is, you know, again, this also varies, but when that comes into play, like on something like The Politician, which was, you know, like that wasn't a musical show, but we had one episode that had a bunch of singing and Pose on the same thing. Like there'll be one episode with like 5 or 6 songs. So in something like that, we're clearing the songs if it's not an original song. And then you know, sometimes the show will have ideas of like who they want to produce, you know, like on Pose, you know, we have an amazing cast. So like Billy Porter has a friend who wants to produce, you know, so sometimes there's that, but then it's my job to like call them, negotiate money, work with the studio, be like, hey, we're doing this. What paperwork does this guy need to fill out? And then make sure everything happens, like scheduling, working with the actor agents to schedule their time in the recording studio, booking the recording studio, like getting the track done, sending it to, you know, if it's a Ryan, sending it to the show, you know, sending it to Ryan saying like, do you have any notes on this? What do you think, you know, any changes? And that'll be with like an instrumental track or with like the vocal track, and then getting it to set, because then it all needs to, everyone, like one of the things I guess people don't usually think about is how like whenever you're watching someone singing on camera, a lot of times they're miming along. 9 times out of 10, they're miming along. So then all of that work needs to be done before shooting. So my job is to sort of basically make sure it all happens and make sure the guys on set get what they need, the actors have what they need to practice, that they feel prepared. Sometimes it's getting them vocal coaches, getting them guitar coaches, getting all those people paid. So it's a lot of logistics, and that was closer to what I was doing on the musical is like dealing with everybody's agents, making sure we don't forget to record someone on the song, you know, like getting everything done in that way. So being in the recording studio, kind of offering thoughts on like how things should sound, or like maybe we get another take. So that's a long answer, but those are all the different components that my job can sometimes take on.
I mean, it's a complicated job. There's probably a reason that he doesn't know it exists, because there's so much to it, and it kind of all seems like things that just happen magically, and clearly there's a lot of life that goes into that. So it's super cool. Do you have an early arts related memory? Can you pinpoint a time that you were engaged in the arts as a younger person, and maybe how that influenced you?
I think I've been involved in the arts, mostly theater, since I was probably in like preschool. Like my mom put me in plays and things. So like that, like the performing arts specifically has been, pretty critical to my whole life, but one experience that I will say that was really formative to kind of what I would say set me on the path to what I am doing now, is in high school. I had a really amazing drama teacher, and she started this thing. I don't even remember how it started, but it was like a night of like one act plays, and like there were like, they would set up like student art. It was like a night of just like student written, student acted, directed, performed plays, and like all that stuff. And because most of our two main things were all directed by faculty. And I think my senior, junior year, this teacher was like, you should produce this, you should run this. And I had never considered anything like that ever, really, pretty much. And so it was life-changing for me, because that's what set me on the path to stage managing. That's what set me on the path to like directing and producing in college. And she was actually also the one who like, I would do a lot of writing, and she was like, I would give her just like things I wrote, and she was like, you might want to think about like writing scripts, like you write in a really visual way. And there was the same educator, and like all of that advice and all those experiences was what really opened the door to being like, oh, I think this is an area of the arts that I'm actually really good at. Like I knew very early I was not the best actress, so I was like, what do I do? And she was the one who was like, you should stage manage, or like you should try producing this thing, and like really kind of, which really changed my life.
Yeah, I from in working in the arts administration side, I always extol the virtues of people who have better stage management, because I think there are so many reasons that like that type of mentality, that type of organization, that skill set, that really it really translates to a lot of different things. You can really use those skills in so many different ways.
I think one of the big misconceptions about what I do, the people who do know, people just think it's like, oh, they're a DJ, they pick songs. And that's not at all what I do. And I think that there are certainly people who have succeeded, who just have great taste in music, and that's what gets them through. But the people who I think are really at the top of their game in this job are people who have the additional skill sets that you find in stage managing and in producing, which is organization, spreadsheets, keeping track of details, knowing how to talk to people. Because at the end of the day, like, it's not my vision. It's not my musical vision. It is the showrunner's musical vision. Like it's my, like, the first questions I always ask were like, what do you think it should be? And like, how can I support that? So, you really just need to know how to, like, everything I do, I learn stage managing. I can think of specific examples from college of like, this skill I learned in this moment translates to how I work right now.
But to teens out there, get into stage management.
Life skills. I'm telling you, life skills, stage managing. Seriously.
Yeah. As an adult, what's your favorite type of art to consume? Do you still check out theater ever? You're in LA. It's a little trickier. What do you
theater?
Yeah. What do you keep up with when you can?
I mean, I do listen to a lot of music. That's part of my job. I mean, I cannot complain about that part of my job, which is listening to a lot of music. We watch a lot of TV, also pretty much part of my job. My husband is a TV writer. Maybe we should talk to him too.
I wrote it down after this. I was like,
yeah.
Maybe
He writes on a kid show. So we watch a lot of television, and also, what was I? I'm going to turn my computer off so I'm not messing anything up. And I do try to see theater when I can. Every year I'm like, this is the year, because I miss it. Like, one of the best parts of working on the prom was that we were working very closely, like just in close quarters with like the Broadway producers and songwriter and like the composer and all the stuff. So that was like it made me just miss that world so much, like performing arts and seeing theater and like just. And I went to go see the show on Broadway before it closed, and it just was like, oh, right, I missed this. I missed this so much. And so, of course, in 2020, I was like, more theater this year, but
wrong year.
It's wrong year for that resolution. But we do regularly consume a lot of like television and music, I would say, as our most. But theater is always on my mind.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little about who Amanda was as a teenager? What were you like? Who were you?
Very similar to how Amanda is now. I was probably to nobody's surprise. I was a huge nerd and an overachiever. I was really involved in like everything. I did we had a fall play and a spring musical. And I did both. I was involved in both. And I also did 3 sports. I just basically like signed up for everything. and yearbook and I don't know, everything I could sign up for. I did sign up for. I don't know. I just was like that person who just like doing that stuff. But yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Or what did you think you would be?
It changed many times. I never really had a real drive. Like, every choice I made wasn't ever really driven by a like end goal. It was sort of just always like, this feels like a good next step. And so I do think like at various points, I definitely wanted to be like a fiction author at a certain point in time. I don't think I ever had any dreams of being an actor or an actress. I think I knew that really wasn't going to be my journey. In college, I was convinced I was going to be a stage manager. I really like went all after that. But kind of what led me to theater in school was not because I had any greater ambition of being in theater. I just was like, I came in as, I think you know this, Sarah, I came in arts and sciences. I did not come in as a theater major. And I just was like, all the classes I'm really interested in taking are theater. And you had to be a major to take most of them. And so I just it sort of speaks to like, all I can think about is really like the next step and what I want that to look like. And so I was like, well, I want to take all these classes. So, and then my teacher in high school had said, you should be a stage manager. So I was like, well, I got to try that and see where it goes. And so, yeah. So, then once that started, I thought I was going to be a stage manager. And then when I started getting a little burnt out on that, I was like, okay, well, maybe I explore this film and TV thing. And then I thought I was going to be a screenwriter or a TV writer, maybe like a writer producer out here in LA. And then I kind of found music supervision, and, I still don't even think that this is sort of like the final destination. I don't know what the next step is, but, I don't think I will be doing exactly this the rest of my life, because there's a lot of life left.
Yeah. What is your you want to share your current company and how that's run? Like, what role you play in your current company?
Oh yeah, sure. So I now have my own company. I've worked in a bunch of different places. I feel really fortunate to have worked in as many places as I did. And, it is a really niche career, and there are like a few, companies that you can like supervise with. And so I was with one of those called Neophonic. It's an amazing company. And I had a couple mentors. And so then one of them left and was like, I'm giving you all these projects to work on. And goodbye. No, he didn't just say peace out. But he that was the, I would say, the seed that started it all. Like, I was really lucky that I had an amazing client in Ryan Murphy, who's like really a visionary, and the vision, like has great musical taste and vision. And so also a million projects. And so about a year and a half ago, almost, not quite, I sort of had enough, between Ryan and some other projects that I work on, I had enough support from those people to start my own company. So it was similar to like what I was doing and have been doing, which is music supervising. And we've just been really busy. So now I have 3 awesome employees who help keep everything going, because there's just so many different parts of the job that, like, so much work that's just less sexy than even I've just mentioned, that all needs doing and staying on top of. And so, yeah, we just, we as a team work on all the projects together, and I encourage them all to, like, they do a little bit of everything. There's nobody who's like just doing music clearance or just doing song research or just doing searches. Like, I'm trying to teach them how to be me, which is how I learned, just by watching people and trying to like be a music supervisor. That's how you become a music supervisor. So yeah, that's sort of how it is. Like, I'm still the music supervisor on all the projects, but hopefully I'll be able to share the wealth and share the credits and nurture and grow. And I don't know that I want to become huge, but that's sort of the current status of things.
Very cool. Real quick, just to break things up before I get the last couple of questions, a real quick rapid fire either or series, just to get to know you better, Amanda Krieg Thomas. So either or, Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tortilla chips or potato chips?
Ooh, that's really hard. Tortilla chips.
The ability to fly or to read minds?
Fly.
You've thought about that one. Summer or winter?
What was it, summer or winter? Summer.
It's a good choice if you live in LA.
Cake or winter, though. I had to think about it. I'm actually tempted to say winter.
Sure. You're talking to people in Chicago, so it's winter.
I know. That's why I was like, I can't say winter because,
Yeah. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Indoors or outdoors?
I'm going to say outdoors because I live in LA.
A different experience. That concludes my completely random either or series of questions, just to get to know you as a person a little bit better. So to what would you attribute the success in your career?
Ooh, I love this question. Because I tell this to my team all the time. I'm like, this is what got me here. You should know this. I think things that have benefited me are always knowing that I'm still learning. And that, I think, and never assuming that I know that I'm like, I had to sort of get to a place of confidence in order to like take on the projects I did. And that was like a learning curve of just having to just say like, okay, I'm just going to make a decision and go with it because I'm the boss now. But even now still, like, I think it's really benefited me to sort of have, and that was a great lesson I learned, just to be able to say like, okay, this is maybe a new situation or a new arrangement. How do I want to approach this? Is it the same as what I've done before? Is it something different than, is it new? And always sort of asking those questions. And especially given how political my job is a lot of the time, there were just a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of big ego. I think it's like you work on big projects, there are a lot of big egos, and knowing how to sort of be respectful and aware of that, and acting just asking those questions, whether it's like to other people or to myself regularly, I think is really what has led to this, and to never coming into a situation presenting myself as like the one who knows and that I know everything. And that was after like being a music, like under a music supervisor, the role is sort of a music coordinator, and it's sort of, it differs person to person, but it's sort of like, it's a very apprenticeship type job, and the coordinator is sort of like the right hand of the supervisor. And oftentimes that involves assistant duties and maybe doing like unsexy stuff for a lot. And I was that role like many times over for like 7 years, 8 years. Like my parents were like, what are you doing? But like the mentor I had who led me to this sort of like path I'm now on, he was like the last person I worked for. And I was like, all right, you know, I've done this so many times before, but I'm just gonna to kind of like be like humble myself and just ask what he needs and be available and be helpful and like not have an ego about that, and answering his phone and scheduling meetings. And I think that attitude is sort of what like really helped, just really made a big difference. And I think that was part of why, you know, obviously do know what I'm doing, but like that attitude about it all, I think was what, you know, 2 years later when he was like, yeah, you're ready for this. I think that was all part of, it all led to that moment.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think there are definitely lessons there about lifelong learning that are super applicable. If you think you know everything, then someone on our team always says, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, then find another room. Like you should never believe that or live that. So, what's your favorite musical artist or song right now?
Oh my God, that's so hard. You know, the sneaky secret is I don't listen to a lot of music for fun anymore. It's really sad. I'm listening to so much for my projects. I don't know, musical artists. I'm really, you know, one of the things I've been doing over this break is I have like a bunch of records, and people will send me records all the time, and so I've been trying to go through them all and listen to them. And I just put on this Blood Orange album that I haven't really spent time with, and I've been really enjoying it. You know, I'm trying to like use this like moment to like really listen to music for pleasure a little bit more, and use these records that I'm so graciously given for free. So yes, there's a Blood Orange album I've really been enjoying right now, and I don't know the title of it.
That's okay. So to start to wrap up, and if anybody has any questions or comments or anything to share with Amanda or Teen Arts Path, feel free to add those down in the comments as we wrap up with our questions for the day. But what message would you want to share with teenage Amanda?
Give yourself a break. Try to chill out a little bit more. It's going to be okay. You can work half as hard and it'll all be fine. That's a message to give to Amanda now, actually.
Well, okay, so we'll be posting this on YouTube so you can go back and watch it, and past self can talk to current self and say, just
okay, perfect, great.
Yeah, there's that right balance of how hard to try. You got to try. But like, oh,
you got to try, but you know, do I need to work 12 hours a day? Probably not.
And is there any lasting advice or any last piece of advice that you would like to give to any teens out there who might be interested in pursuing this line of work?
Well, you know, I will say that, you know, music for film and TV is a really amazing, and really if you broaden it up, there's ads, there's video games, there's trailers. I think that, you know, a lot of people, you know, the emails I get, you know, I get a lot of emails from people who do want to be music supervisors, but then, you know, I often will say like, well, do you know there's actually like there's a lot of jobs in this sort of sphere. If you're like a music person and you love music and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, even if you're an artist or a songwriter, I mean, I feel like that's a lot of people's entry point into a music industry profession. And people are like, well, I have to work in the music industry. Well, I've really liked working in a place where it's sort of like a cross section of a few different industries. And like, even in musical film and television, there's like, there's music supervisors, obviously. Then there's like music clearance, like people who just do the legal side of it. But then there's also like music editors, and there's also people who pitch music. Like I get like probably like 100 emails every day from different companies. Some are like record labels and music publishers, which people might feel familiar with, but also just like smaller companies that aren't small, that just specialize in pitching music and getting artists to write music for film and TV. So I guess my advice is, if you're like interested at all in like film and music, like keep yourself open. Excuse me, I'm like getting a frog in my throat. Keep yourself open to the career, the specific career, and because there's a lot of different jobs you can explore in this space, rather than just music supervision.
Very cool. Thank you very much for sharing. I know this is a thing that not a lot of people know about or on their radar, so just being able to have the chance to talk to you, to hear a little bit about more how you found your way into that and what's really been successful is really appreciated. So on behalf of the teens out there who have a lot of these questions, thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon, sharing us with us about your career. And is there any last recommendation based on any of your projects that anybody should just check out or keep an eye out for, that you really want to plug?
That I really want to plug? Well, your audience is all like teens mostly, right? They're all like
19 and
kind of adult themes here. Well, I work on there's two shows of mine that are airing right now are 911 on Fox, which is sort of like a general network drama, which is pretty enjoyable. But also, the one I'm really proud of, one project I feel really proud of, is the show 20s on BET. And it's about like three 20-somethings who've like just moved, who are like mid-20s trying to sort of find their way in LA, and it's three black women, and the lead is a lesbian. It's Lena Waithe's new series, and that one was really fun because we really got to sort of like pull together like an amazing playlist of music of artists that were mostly LGBTQ, women of color, and just like, put together an awesome soundtrack for that one. And there's a Spotify playlist for it too. It's real. The music is really good. I work on a lot of period set TV shows, like 70s and 80s. So it was really fun to like kind of discover new music and get to feature really current artists. And like, it's just a really fun show. And so the last couple episodes are airing in the next couple weeks on Wednesdays. So that's a really fun one. It is a little inappropriate, but it's funny and it has great music.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you do such cool work. You know so many cool people. I'm honored to know you, and I'm really grateful again that you took the time to share some of your wisdom.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you, Amanda. And so for everybody tuning in, we will be posting this on YouTube. So if you missed some of today's chat, or you want to share it with somebody else who you think would be really interested in hearing what Amanda had to say, check out the Teen Arts Pass YouTube channel. We'll post that on Instagram too when they're all live. We'll also be posting our first two with Madison Embry, the stunt performer and dancer, as well as Steph Paul, the choreographer and director. And we'll be back with another exciting arts professional next Tuesday, April 7th at 3 p.m. Central. So make sure you're following us on Instagram for all of our schedule updates. Thank you. Again, this has been a Teen Arts Pass Tap Talk. And we were joined by the fantastic Krieg Thomas. So thanks for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you on Tuesday.